In the summer of 1947, a small town in the state of New Mexico, United States, became the stage for one of the greatest mysteries in history. The name of this town was Roswell. In July of that year, something fell in the middle of the desert. This incident turned into one of the most debated cases of the 20th century. Some claimed it was merely a weather balloon, while others believed it was a spacecraft from another world. So, what was the truth? In this documentary, we will explore the Roswell incident in all its details. We will examine the atmosphere of the time when the event occurred, analyze the first eyewitness accounts and official statements. Furthermore, we will look at how this event sparked modern UFO culture and how the scientific community approached the subject. Without falling into conspiracy theories, we will seek the closest answer to the truth in the light of documents and scientific explanations. To understand the Roswell incident, we need to look at the atmosphere of 1947. Only 2 years had passed since the end of World War II, and the world was feeling the pains of a new order. The United States, as the victor of the war, stood at the pinnacle both economically and militarily. But that power also carried great responsibility and anxiety. The Soviet Union was rapidly rearming and working to develop nuclear technology. 1947 was the year the Cold War began, when the nuclear arms race accelerated and the public lived under a constant fear of war. In America, people lived with a new sense of threat: fear of the atomic bomb, worries about espionage, and concerns about unknown aerial objects. It was precisely during this period that reports of strange objects in the sky began to appear. In particular, 1947 went down in history as the year UFO reports exploded in the United States. In June of that year, pilot Kenneth Arnold's claim of seeing flying discs over Washington state caused a huge stir in the national press. Arnold said he saw 9 objects flying in formation at 14,000 feet and that they moved as if skipping like a stone across the water. This incident led the American media to coin the term flying saucer, and it quickly became the biggest phenomenon in capturing public attention. People began filing reports of seeing odd things in the sky. It wasn't something seen by just a few people. There were dozens, even hundreds of witnesses. The press ran the story on their front pages, and radio stations were constantly broadcasting flying saucer reports. The question forming in people's minds was, are we alone? At the same time, scientific discoveries were accelerating: jet engines, radar systems, nuclear power, the first computers. All of this showed that the boundaries of technology were expanding. But the fear of the unknown was growing too. The world was changing faster than ever before. It was in this atmosphere that, in July 1947, something fell in the New Mexico desert. The Roswell area where the event occurred was not an ordinary place. It was home to some of America's most secret military projects. Nearby was the base of the 509th Bombardment Group, the unit that had operated the aircraft that carried atomic bombs during World War II. As a result, when an unknown object fell in the middle of the desert, it was not just the news of a small town but an event the whole world talked about. So what really happened? Why did the US Army initially announce, "We have found a flying disc," and then retract that statement? And why were documents about the incident kept secret for years? To find the answers to these questions, we will now examine step by step what happened in Roswell. Everything began in early July 1947 at the Foster Ranch, about 120 kilometers from the town of Roswell in the state of New Mexico. The ranch manager, William Mac Brazel, later recounted that on the night of July 2nd, a severe storm hit the area, and the next morning, while checking on his livestock, he noticed strange debris scattered across part of the ranch. What Brazel saw didn't resemble an ordinary plane crash. The debris field stretched over a large area, roughly a strip about 200 meters long, containing metallic fragments of different sizes, materials that appeared thin yet incredibly strong, and substances Brazel had never seen before. Some pieces were lightweight but very durable, some could be bent and then would return to their original shape. Brazel said these materials didn't resemble traditional substances like wood or steel. In addition, some fragments bore strange markings, symbols or characters that looked like writing but did not match any known language. When Mac Brazel saw these materials, he was shocked, though he had no idea what they were. At first, he thought it might have been a weather balloon or some kind of military test device, since there was a military base not far from the area. However, the characteristics of the debris seemed very unusual. Brazel examined the wreckage for several days, even collecting some pieces and showing them to his neighbors. His neighbors agreed that the materials were highly unusual. Later, Brazel went to Roswell Sheriff George Wilcox to report the discovery. Instead of going to the site himself, Wilcox decided the matter should be handled by the military and contacted the Roswell Army Airfield. From that point on, the situation escalated quickly, because the information reached the U.S. Army Air Force's 509th Bombardment Group. This unit was famously responsible for operating the planes that carried atomic bombs during World War II, an extremely critical military force. Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer at the base, was assigned to handle the case. Marcel and his team immediately went to the site, examined the wreckage, and collected some of the debris to bring back to the base. At this point, the incident shifted from an ordinary report to one of the greatest mysteries in history. On July 8, 1947, the Roswell Army Airfield issued an official press release stating, "The Roswell Army Airfield has recovered a flying disc from a ranch near Roswell." This became the biggest news of the time. The press release was quickly distributed by the Associated Press and other major news agencies. Newspapers ran the story on their front pages. People were stunned. Was the government really announcing that it had found a flying saucer? But the shock didn't last long. Only a few hours later, the U.S. military changed its statement. According to the new explanation, the recovered object was not a flying saucer but a weather observation balloon. The Army claimed the balloon was an ordinary meteorological device used for monitoring atmospheric conditions. This reversal completely contradicted the original statement and caused massive confusion. Why did they first say, a flying disc was recovered, then suddenly change it to, a weather balloon? Moreover, according to later statements by Major Jesse Marcel, the debris clearly did not resemble an ordinary balloon. Years later, Marcel gave interviews describing the materials as incredibly strong yet extremely light, unbreakable, and impossible to bend. He also said that some fragments had strange symbols on them, symbols that did not resemble any known language or script. Another interesting point was that the debris was found near one of the most secret projects in the US, the nuclear weapons program. This fueled public speculation. Could this really have been a UFO? Because if it were just an ordinary balloon, why did it attract such intense military attention? Why did one of the most elite units of the Army get involved? And why was the first statement made in such sensational terms? All these questions became part of what made the Roswell incident so mysterious. Additionally, some witnesses later made intriguing claims. Some alleged that the military quickly gathered the wreckage, took full control of the area, and even silenced certain civilian witnesses. Years later, some claims even suggested that the military had found not only metallic debris at the site but also bodies belonging to extraterrestrial beings. These claims were never proven, but they greatly contributed to the myths surrounding the Roswell incident. In the end, that famous announcement made on July 8, 1947, and then quickly retracted, gave birth to the modern UFO phenomenon. Because this event left people with two possibilities. Either something truly was discovered and the government covered it up, or why would the government make such a mistake? This uncertainty is what turned Roswell into one of the most debated mysteries in history. One of the most striking aspects of the early days of the Roswell incident was the information the public heard from people who had witnessed the event. Mac Brazel, the man who discovered the wreckage, emerged as the central figure. In an interview with the Roswell Daily Record newspaper, Brazel stated that the debris had extraordinary characteristics. According to him, the pieces were extremely light, would return to their original shape after being bent, and could not be broken in any way. He even tried breaking one piece with a hammer but failed. Brazel also mentioned that some parts had purplish-colored symbols that did not resemble any known language. However, shortly after this interview, Brazel fell silent. After meeting with military officials, he reversed his earlier statements, saying, it was just a weather balloon. This raised even more suspicion among the public. Had Brazel been silenced? Another key witness was Major Jesse Marcel. Marcel had personally collected the wreckage and brought it to the Roswell base. Years later, in interviews, he said the materials were far too unusual to belong to an ordinary balloon. He recalled pieces that looked like thin metallic foil but could never be broken, and he confirmed that some fragments bore strange markings. Marcel's testimony added even more mystery to Roswell, because the official explanation pointed to a weather balloon, yet the military officer who handled the debris said otherwise. Newspapers ran sensational headlines. On July 8, 1947, the Roswell Daily Record published, RAAF captures flying disc. This headline quickly spread across the country, but the next day, the Army held another press conference, claiming, not a flying disc, but a meteorological balloon, in an attempt to close the matter. They even displayed the remains of a weather balloon to reporters and allowed photographs to be taken. In these photos, Jesse Marcel was seen posing with what appeared to be the fragments of an ordinary balloon. However, years later, Marcel claimed that the materials shown in those pictures were not the real debris and that the Army had staged the photo. The public didn't find these explanations convincing. Why did the military first say, a flying disc, and then backtrack? And why did witnesses speak out and then go silent? The answers to these questions have never been fully clarified. But one thing is certain. The Roswell incident laid the foundation for the modern UFO legend and sparked a worldwide fascination with unidentified flying objects. Despite the official explanations regarding the Roswell incident, conspiracy theories quickly emerged, and the mystery surrounding the event grew with each passing year. The most popular of these theories claimed that not only metallic debris was found at the crash site, but also bodies belonging to extraterrestrial beings. According to this rumor, a UFO had crashed, and the alien beings inside were either dead or severely injured when recovered. It was alleged that these beings were taken under military control, their bodies transported to secret military facilities for autopsy, and the entire incident was covered up at the highest level. Some former military personnel even claimed years later in interviews that they had seen small, non-human bodies at Roswell. In 1947, these rumors were not taken seriously, but from the 1980s onward, they resurfaced. The reason for this resurgence was UFO researchers and journalists tracking down old witnesses and interviewing them. Jesse Marcel's appearances on television programs, where he said, "What I saw could not have been an ordinary balloon," reignited public interest in the case. Additionally, claims emerged that Mac Brazel had been silenced under military pressure and detained for a period after the incident. According to these allegations, the government threatened witnesses, saying, "If you talk, your life will be ruined." Some witnesses reported that when the military collected the debris, they completely sealed off the area, prevented civilians from approaching, and even confiscated film rolls from journalists trying to take pictures. All of this reinforced the belief that the government was truly hiding something. The conspiracy theories didn't stop there. Some researchers suggested that the technology recovered from Roswell was later used in the development of advanced U.S. technologies. Innovations such as fiber optic cables, integrated circuits, night vision systems, and even stealth technology emerged rapidly after this crash, something that many found too coincidental to ignore. Although these claims have never been scientifically proven, they were considered too compelling to dismiss as mere coincidence. In addition, the release of the infamous 1995 video titled Roswell Alien Autopsy, which showed an autopsy being performed on a creature resembling an alien in a laboratory setting, caused a global sensation and further fueled these theories. Although the video was later exposed as a hoax, it cemented the Roswell legend in popular culture. Even today, many people believe that the real truth about Roswell remains hidden and that the US government has never been fully transparent about the incident. Roswell is seen not just as a UFO crash claim, but also as an example of government secrecy and strategic control over public information. For this reason, the Roswell incident continues to be one of the strongest sources of conspiracy theories. The most significant official explanations regarding the Roswell incident came nearly half a century later, in the 1990s. In 1994, the U.S. Air Force released a comprehensive report stating that the object that crashed in Roswell was part of a top-secret program called Project Mogul. According to this report, Project Mogul involved a balloon system developed to detect Soviet nuclear tests, and these balloons were far more complex than ordinary weather balloons. The report claimed that the debris found in Roswell consisted of lightweight metal alloys and specially designed balloon materials, which may explain why witnesses considered them strange. It also suggested that some of the symbols reported by witnesses might have originated from the colorful markings on the tape used for radar reflectors. However, since the report did not directly address the allegations regarding extraterrestrial beings, the controversy did not end. As a result, in 1997, the U.S. Air Force published a second report. This report responded to the rumors about alien bodies by stating that no physical evidence was ever found. It further claimed that these rumors may have been the result of confusion with crash test dummies used in parachute experiments during the 1950s. UFO researchers, however, were not convinced by these explanations, as it was revealed that these dummy tests took place years after the Roswell incident. From a scientific standpoint, the evaluation of the case is fairly clear. To this day, no verified evidence of an extraterrestrial craft or life form has been found in connection with Roswell. Even most modern UFO researchers acknowledge that the incident was most likely related to Project Mogul. Nevertheless, the reason Roswell has remained such a prominent topic for so long lies in the culture of secrecy during that era and the military's contradictory statements. Scientists also point to this case as an example of how human psychology works in the face of uncertainty. The initial dramatic claim, "A flying disc has been recovered," sticks in memory far more strongly than the later correction. Additionally, the paranoid atmosphere of the Cold War heightened public distrust of the government. From this perspective, Roswell became both a historical and sociological case study. Today, the strongest fact we have is this: at the heart of the incident was most likely a military secret, but one tied not to alien technology, but to one of the most classified intelligence projects of the time, Project Mogul. Even so, the Roswell incident continues to be one of the most enduring and influential elements of UFO mythology. The Roswell incident, even after more than 70 years, remains one of humanity's greatest mysteries. Did a UFO really crash, or was it just a military balloon? Perhaps we will never know the definitive answer, but this event showed us one thing: people will always be curious about the unknown. What do you think? Was Roswell a cover-up, or have the legends been exaggerated? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoy deep dive investigation videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video.